Hey everybody, welcome back. It's a beautiful day. We are back in New York, and before we get started on getting caught up with the footage that I shot this winter, I thought I would answer a question that everybody gets asked that decides to travel extensively. Um, Maybe toss it all away and just go. Nomads who, for whatever reason, are on the road, they all get asked why. Why did you do it? Why did you, in some cases, sell everything you had and, just take off? Why did you just, decide that you were going to put your life on hold? They all get asked why. So, my answer to that question is actually multifaceted. There are a couple of reasons. First of all, I would have to say and admit that money is definitely a big consideration as to why I did this. COVID really put a big chunk of my finances in the trash can, and I got into some debt, a little bit of debt, and up until that point, I was doing fine. I was paying the bills, owned my own home, and my head was above water, and I still wasn't saving a whole lot, but it was okay. When COVID hit, and I didn't really, from circumstances, because of the circumstances that a couple of the decisions I made, it put me in a bind money-wise. So I've been working my way out of debt. So that was part of it. If I wanted to travel, I couldn't do it owning the house. So when my son um, mentioned to me last spring that he was ready to move out after 34 years, it was time. um, I put the house on the market, and it took a little while to sell. Once he was out of the house, I was walking around the house just looking around. It was just a small house. It's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. It did have a half an acre of land, which I had beautiful gardens on. But I just kept thinking to myself, what am I going to do with this? It's not that it's too much, but how many rooms do I use? So I was really happy when the house sold. And the day after the house sold, I bought the van. And I do still own a house in New York. So I'm technically still tied to New York. Um, I do have that house rented at the moment. The girl is under a land contract, and she's trying to buy it from me. With what's coming down the pike, we'll have to see what um, what happens. She still has a few years left, so we'll just have to see what happens. But yeah, money was definitely a big thing. I'm at the point now where I have most of my debts paid off, and I'm actually starting to put a little bit aside. But again, with what's coming down the pike, God knows things could change tomorrow. So yeah, money was a big thing. Now, as far as the other reason, that's the most important reason, is I think I've always been uh, a, a wanderer at heart. So as far as the actual travel, I could not afford to do the travel and own a house. That was clear. I've always been a wanderer, I think. I've always wanted to know what was at the top of that mountain, what was at the top of the next mountain, what was at the end of the road, ever since I was a child. And because my parents were tied to the land, the property that they owned, we didn't get out much. So it really wasn't, I didn't get a chance to see a lot. With local, we would do it in the fall. We would take trips. take a couple little trips, but I never really got to see. And I think that may have planted the seed. That and being out in the middle of nowhere, you know, basically living out in the middle of nowhere, um, without, I was an only child, and our nearest neighbors were a mile down the road, so I didn't really get to see a whole lot, and I just always wanted to travel and see things. So when I graduated high school, I started working racehorses, and if anybody's familiar with working racehorses, you understand that the people who do that are lead a very transient life, and you can spend the winter in Florida, and then you can ship to Kentucky in the spring, and then during the summer you're all over. You could be in New York, you could be in Ohio, you could be a week here, a week there, maybe 3 weeks someplace else. Then you go back to Kentucky, and then you go back to Florida, or you go back to California. It just depends. And for all the years that I was working horses, that seemed to satisfy the gypsy that filled my soul. Fact is, we referred to ourselves as gypsies, and it satisfied me for a long time. When I decided to have my son, I didn't want to do it on the racetrack, so I moved off, and I had enough money to buy a house. Wasn't a fancy house, but it was a house, and I got it cleaned up and painted it while he was young, and you know, we were good for a few years, and then I got restless, and I got more restless, and so I sold the house, and then traveled, maybe traveled to another state, bought another house, did the same thing, and we did a lot of states. We did New York, we did Kentucky, we did Florida, we did North Dakota. And I did it over and over and over again, and stayed for a few years. I think the longest I stayed somewhere was 9 years. And so when Coda said last spring that he was ready to move on, that's when I knew that this was going to be my chance to be able to get out. And so I've had the chance now to do it for about 6 months, and it's been very interesting, and I'm really jazzed. I find I like it even more than what I thought I was going to like it. As far as, we're often asked, well, weren't you afraid? I don't think fear has ever entered my head, because all the years I worked racehorses, I'd get dropped off at racetracks where I knew nobody, and it was me and my horse, and you pretty much had to stand on your own 2 feet. So, I mean, fear never entered my mind. So that's basically why I did it. Those 2 reasons are probably the most important reasons why I did it. And there's probably a couple other reasons. I've got friends everywhere. I've got friends all over the country, and this has given me a chance to see a lot of them. I have a close-knit group of small close-knit group of friends, but they're in Florida, they're in Kentucky, they're in New York, they're in Canada, they're in California. They're all over, and this has given me a chance to see some of them. I've got more I want to see. Because we're not given, a promise of tomorrow. So these are all people that I've known over the years. So it's given me a chance to do that. And so, like I said, there's a couple of other reasons. With what's coming down the pike, everything is just really up in the air right now. And I actually kind of like the idea of being not tied to something in case something drastic happens and you have to move. I know I'm sounding a little cryptic here, but you never know. You know, you never know what's going to happen, and we are in time. We are in perilous times. So that, you know, I kind of like the idea of being able to move at a moment's notice and carry everything with me. You know, I can be on the side of a river, you know, and I can be camped out at the side of a river for a few days, then go into town and decide I'm going to go see my friend who lives 100 miles away. That kind of thing really, it jazzes me. I like being able to move. Um, the idea of being stuck someplace, I feel so sorry for the people who are stuck in a house that are older, maybe by themselves. You know, the idea of being stuck somewhere and sitting around watching television and eating popcorn just is not my cup of tea. So basically, that's it in a nutshell. Um, and you know, so far it has exceeded everything that I thought it was gonna be. To be able to see places that I can hardly imagine, and see places that I never thought I wanted to see, as I've said before. So that's that's my reason for why I wanted to do this. Um, like I said, I have options. Um, so it's not something that I did because I absolutely had to. I could still own my home. I could still own the house I was living in. I wouldn't be getting ahead. I'd be swimming, you know, I'd be swimming upstream, but I could still own it. But I think this is more fun, especially when there's not a whole lot of people in your life that you need to be tied to. You know, my son is on his own, and like I said, I've got friends and relatives all over the country. So this gives me a chance to be able to see them, and you know, it's been exciting so far. So we'll see how the next year goes. So that's my reason. Those are my reasons why I did this. And you know, everybody has their own reasons. Everybody has different reasons. Some people have to be on the road, but I did it because this may be the last great adventure I have. So thanks for watching, and come back. I've got some stuff lined up. I figured I wanted to answer this question before we got into getting caught up with what I've shot this winter, and the adventure continues.